is the story where Jesus goes to the synagogue and heals a man of postnasal drip. And then he heals a woman with an ingrown toenail. And that's all he can do. You see, Mark's gospel doesn't even bother to tell us what those little healing miracles were, but you know they had to be something on that order. Something wasn't working that day when Jesus went to the synagogue, and all he could do was heal a couple people a little bit. The guy with the cold that he was getting over anyway. There's something about being in your own place where things don't work right. You know, I have preached in many sanctuaries to many congregations over the years. And there's something that is beautiful about that, to move around from place to place, even to find a congregation that becomes home, where I can do ministry. And this is true of all pastors, not just me. But the worst place to preach is in the church where you grew up. Now, I have been spared that indignity. You see, growing up Southern Baptist, the church where I grew up, I wouldn't really be welcome anymore. And so I haven't had to deal with preaching to that congregation that knew me when I was a snot-nosed kid. But Jesus, no, he stepped in. He went right back to that synagogue where he had grown up, the one where he had learned to read Torah, the one where he had perhaps for the first time taught, long before he had had the opportunity to begin his ministry. But now, here he was, all grown up in his early 30s, traveling around, making a name for himself. And he found himself back in that town of Nazareth, with the people who knew him and loved him as a child, with those who probably helped Mary change his diapers. And he began to preach. And for just a moment, the people heard some wisdom. But then they started asking the questions. Isn't this the carpenter? Mary's son? Where's he get this stuff? And I can tell you that it wasn't one of those, ooh, where did he get that? It was much more of a, where's he get that? Same words. Very different inflection. In fact, even the way they referred to him, isn't this Mary's son? Tells us a little bit about what they were thinking. You see, in the first century, they would have said, isn't this Joseph's son? You would never refer to a man as being just the son of his mother. And don't go thinking for a minute that they're thinking, well, you know, we can't say, isn't this God's son? No, that's not what they're thinking. They're thinking, isn't this the son of Mary and maybe that Roman Naughtius Maximus? Yeah, there's a reason they're not talking about Joseph here. They're hearing a word from a guy that they knew when he was little. They saw some of the stunts he pulled. And they're not about to have any. And so Jesus can't do much. These little minor healings. And so he stops. And he turns to his friends who are traveling with him. And he says to them, you know, I need to take a breather. I've learned that a prophet isn't without honor except for his own town. But you know, you folks, you 12, you can do something about this. And he sends them off in pairs to go and do the holy work that even Jesus himself can't manage to do. Sending them out to heal and to teach. And he tells them, when you go, don't pack a suitcase. Don't even put some extra 20s in your wallet. Just go. And trust that you will be cared for. Stay in people's homes as you go. Eat what they feed you. Receive the welcome that they offer you. And when you're in their homes, be signs of the presence of God. But, there's always a but, isn't there? But when you walk into a town and they don't receive you, keep on going. Shake the dust off your feet. Keep going, because there's another town ahead of you where you will be welcome, where my word will be welcome, where God's grace will be welcome. Keep going. Travel light. You've got some miles ahead of you. You know, it's not the kind of story that we really like. That notion of traveling light. We as Americans really like our stuff. And sometimes our stuff gets in the way. It holds us in place. It keeps us from going and doing. Now, I admit that I am just as much at fault as anyone when it comes to this. In fact, yesterday as I was in a parking lot, I was looking around at all the different cars, and I saw my car there, with a bike rack in the back and canoe racks on the top, and I thought to myself, who has more fun than anybody? In case you're wondering, it's me. Carrying all that stuff. But you know, sometimes that stuff slows us down. And I can tell you, when I put those kayaks on the roof, my gas mileage plummets. There's a lot of wind resistance that comes when we carry too much stuff. There's a lot of weight that makes it hard for us to even get moving sometimes. You know this is true in your lives. Yet God sends us out into a world where it seems that even Jesus himself can't make much of a difference. Telling us, don't do it on your own. Pick a friend and get out there. Go, travel light, do my work. Speak truth to power. Bring healing to people and communities and even to your nation as you speak and act as my people. Work for wholeness and healing and justice. It's quite the commission, isn't it? I think it is. Yet we resist. Perhaps because we're afraid. Perhaps because we're so tied to our spot. Perhaps because we've got too much stuff to carry with us. And so we find that imperative coming across the ages. Set it aside. Leave it. You don't need it. Because you are the ones who do the work, not the stuff that you carry. Today, as God's people, we turn and we look at our nation, where more than 3,000 children have been separated from their parents and are being kept in detention camps. We look around and we see a community that is in need of a healing touch. We see work on every front. Perhaps we'll be rejected as we do God's work. Yet God tells us when we are, keep moving until you find that place where your words your truth, my truth, until you find that place where they resonate and they make a difference. Perhaps, like me, you have found yourself trying to do what seems right, slamming your head against that wall over and over and over, and making no difference. Maybe it's time for us, when we find that happening, to say, okay, enough of this wall. It's time for the next step. A new adventure, a new place, a new type of message. As we adapt and change and move on until we find the place to which God has indeed called us. It takes a sensitive spirit, a heart that's open for a yes, as much as a spirit that's open and honest enough to hear a no. May God then grant us that wisdom, that perception, and yes, that tenacity, as we continue our journey as God's people, until we find that spot where God's word and God's work are received. Amen.
Amen.